Thanks to a listener idea, we've come up with a great new T-shirt where you can maybe deprogram Obamanoids. Just like the Bush people. I tried to explain he was New World Order and evil, and they would think I was a communist. And I would say, no, he's a puppet. He's controlled. But they had invested their image of themselves, their identity in this person that was developed and created by the very corporate slave state that's destroying all of our futures and openly say they want to euthanize and engage in eugenics. And if you don't think they'll do it, look what they've done to Native Americans and others. We had a pastor on last week who exposed, and it's even ended up in mainstream Canadian press after 10 years of him fighting, that they take the Native American children in Canada and still, they just kill them. Half the boys they take, the foster care, they take them, they grab them, they use the churches, and it's government control, and they just murder them. Murder little kids, and it's on record, and nobody gets in trouble. Nothing happens. It's sick, but they want to do it to everybody. It's any group. See, with the Native Americans, they could sell people they were different, or they're causing a problem. You know, they're different from us, let's kill them. But then the killing also happens to those that helped do the killing, or their ancestors. That's how this works. But here's the new shirt, and it says, on the cover here, it says, worst president ever, and it's one half of the face is George Bush, and on the other half, it's Obama. It says, until now, Infowars.com. And on the back, it says, don't be a sucker. And this will explain to everybody and get past the controlled left-right paradigm. We've got some other new Obama shirts that just went up, and pre-orders for the Obama deception just began. And it's about getting the information out. It's also about supporting the show so we can have a platform to support other great activists and humanitarians. And speaking of that, Mr. Means, before we get into other issues and where you think things are going in the future, tell us about the Lakota Nation, the 4.5 or 5 state area, what has happened, how people get involved. This will materialize if people join, if people get involved, if people spread the word, if people financially support. And I can't think of a better leader than yourself, you know, going through the situation that you went with in the 71-day armed takeover of the sacred grounds of Wounded Knee with the feds, you know, all the things you've been through as a leader. I'm glad that you're leading the charge on this. So tell us how the people of not just the United States, but the world can be involved in this historic Declaration of Independence and pulling out of the fraudulent contract. And this dovetails with 21 states now saying they're going to pull out of the Union if martial law or gun confiscation continues. So, I mean, this is a spirit, isn't it, that's rising?
Oh, it's overdue. It's overdue. And even including ourselves. But what we recognize in the Republic of Lakota is that 90% of the population in the 60 million acres that makes up this 5-state area, a part of North Dakota, South Dakota, Montana, Wyoming, and Nebraska. This area is 90% non-Indian, 90% white people. We understand because for 150 years we've been getting along with them. We've been living with them. We have to continue that. So we invite them to join the Republic of Lakota. It's not a racial independent movement. This is a people's independence movement, except we want to do it according to our understanding of individual liberty and our understanding. Nevertheless, we want to give state power to neighborhoods so that they have all responsibility for what goes on in their neighborhood. And I don't care how big the neighborhood is. And then you have a collection of neighborhoods that make up an area, and then the area, and then finally you get the nation.
That'll be dynamic.
Your point is, if you have a neighborhood of 2 houses or 20 houses or 200 houses, fine. But you run everything in that neighborhood. What does that mean? You have to run it by consensus, number one, to ensure individual liberty. Number two is you definitely have to bring about law and order. That's responsibility. Guess what happens then? You eliminate the need for police because in your neighborhood you're taking care of it. You eliminate the need for courts and judges, and best of all, you eliminate the need for lawyers.
Well, that's the system they've had in Switzerland, some of what was founded here in the United States, and that really is, at least for a lot of the tribes, based on a Native American system?
Yes, that's based upon our control of individual liberty.
Let me ask you a question. What would you do if, let's say, you're a neighborhood or what you call a village of, say, 400 houses, and somebody commits a murder.
Well, those 400 houses would take care of that. Not the nation, not the larger area. Those 400 houses, they would have already determined their justice system according to them. You're a mini state within a state, and it's like posse comitatus laws that used to be prevalent in this United States of America.
Well, that's how small towns were in the United States. Was they would have their court, their system, and they would deal out justice.
Well, because Americans have become the new Indians of the 21st century, and they've become actually reservation Indians because they've abdicated their responsibility. They've allowed the Congress of the United States of America to eradicate posse comitatus laws. Listen, these two bedrock avenues of individual liberty is, one, the sheriff of every county at one time was the top law official in the nation because they were elected. And then those sheriffs, any police agency anywhere from any place, had to get permission of the sheriff to come in that county. That was just eradicated in the last 3 years by Congress. The other thing is, with the corporate laws, we have to get rid of the rights of corporations. It's abominable and the height of stupidity to give a corporation a piece of paper the same rights that we have as individuals, but none of the penalties.
Well, Russell, this is what we need. We need to get back. Imagine if people got into self-sufficiency, it would create an incredible economy if every little neighborhood together had their own wind power, their own solar panels, put in their own septic tanks, their own systems, like the Amish. Take the Amish. There's almost 300,000 of them in Illinois. They've done a study over 200,000 of them. No autism, much lower crime rate. In fact, no crime to speak of. I mean, they live in harmony because they're living in a natural way, and the state's coming in and kidnapping their kids now. The state had left the Amish alone. Now they're treating them like Native Americans in the 1870s. I mean, so we, to defend ourselves, we need to go back to being our own little communities. And if you don't like the neighborhood, the village you're in, you go find another one you like to move to.
Exactly. And that's the epitome of individual freedom, is local control. You know, the jury system used to be the last vestige against state power. When you had jury nullification, you could nullify an existing law if the jury felt it didn't apply to that individual case. So any law could be nullified by 12 citizens, responsible citizens. But we've got to reinstitute, if we're going to be a free people, we have to reinstitute in the minds of our people the idea of responsibility.
Think of the power.
It's your responsibility to find out about who really is running this country, who really is Obama, where did he come from, and why? Why did he move from being a Harvard law graduate, editor of the Harvard Law Review? He had his pick of any legal firm he could go to in New York City, Chicago, Washington, D.C. He could have been a clerk for a Supreme Court justice. But what did he do? He goes to a city he never lived in, never even visited, Chicago, to work among the poor, allegedly, as a lawyer. And where did they put him? They put him in the most connected church in the black community. Also, they gave him a political mentor, the local black political boss of the south side of Chicago. And there you have his path right to the White House.
In fact, Russell, I mean, there were a lot of cases, because I've read a lot of U.S. history. I mean, that was classic, that as Western expansion was taking place, that's how they would defeat the Native Americans, is they would go pay off some of the bad chiefs to get them to tell their people to stand down. And so people can't get that there's a guy who's, part black, that somehow, he, isn't a sellout to the New World Order. I mean, it's asinine. I mean, look, it's just on its face. And then now they're going to continue the secret arrest. They're going to continue, now they're saying 23 months in Iraq. It was 6, then 16, now 23. 30,000 more troops, up to 60 in Afghanistan. Now they're talking about 90,000. He's talking about going into Iran, going into Pakistan. They're building FEMA camps, and it's in the news, and he wants to have a giant 18 to 24 compulsory service and a new domestic army. No law. The Pentagon just announced it as a new order, and they're building a camp outside Austin, Russell. I mean, this is really happening.
Exactly, and it's also, they've gotten rid of the laws protecting us against the National Army. Now the Department of Defense has jurisdiction, thanks to Homeland Security, has jurisdiction in any legal jurisdiction in the United States of America. That never before was possible, but now it is. The Army can come in for any reason. Before it was illegal.
Well, that's right. First it was 4,000 troops, then 20,000.